Hello, this is Ms. DB, and today we're going to learn more about how to simplify expressions containing exponents. This is Chapter 1, Section 4. So let's start with some definitions. We have what a power is. A power is an expression written with an exponent and a base, or the value of such an expression. So 3 squared is an example of a power. And the 2 gets written smaller, the power gets written smaller, the exponent does, and to the upper right of the base. The base is 3, that is the factor, and the exponent tells how many times the base should be a factor. So because we have an exponent of 2, it tells us to take 3 times 3, 2 times. When a number is raised to the second power, we usually say it's squared, so you'll hear me use that term a lot. The area of a squared is s times s equals s squared. That's why we say it's squared. If we say if we have a number raised to the third power, we usually call that cubed. So we might call this s cubed. And you'll hear me say that. After the second power and the third power, we don't have any special names. So 3 to the first power, you could put a 1 on it like this. It just means 3. And its value is 3. 3 to the second power, we could also call that 3 squared. That means 3 times 3. If you write the expanded form of that, you would write that with 3 to the 2, and its value is 9 because 3 times 3 is 9. 3 to the third power can also be said 3 cubed. The multiplication would mean 3 times 3 times 3. The power would be 3 to the third power, and the value of that is 27 because 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 more, 9 times 3 is 27. Then after that we would just have 3 to the fourth power, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which is 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 more is 27, and 27 times 3 is 81. So the value is 81, and you'd write that as 3 to the fourth. And then here's 3 to the fifth. And we could keep going on and on beyond this, but this is just the first 5 powers of 3. If there's a negative, you have to be really careful. If the negative is in front, that negative is not part of the base. In negative 5 to the second power, the 5 is the base, not negative 5, just 5. In the next expression with the parentheses, that tells us that the base is negative 2. The parentheses are around the negative and the 2, so the base is negative 2. If we're typing on a computer, there's this little button. If you go Shift and then the 6 key, we call it a caret. I'm not sure why, but that means that a power is coming next. So for 4 to the fifth power, you can write that as 4 and then that caret and then the 5. That means 4 to the fifth. You can also look in your word tools, and if you find the little button that looks like x to the second power, x squared, if you click that, then you can write the power after that, and then you click it again to stop making exponents. So try that when you're filling it in with Word. If you're typing this on a computer, those are some ways to do that. All right, so these are examples from your worksheet. The first one says the expression 3, and if I read it out loud, you're going to know what to put. But this says 3 to the 8th power. And then it says write the expression that represents 5 to the 6th power. So you have to figure out how to write that and put it here and use exponents. For exponents, again, you can use this or you can write it like this. Now in number 3, the blanks are for the word base and exponent. You have to figure out which one is the base and which one is the exponent. In number 4, we have 6 to the fourth power. How many times is 6 used as a factor? And then number 5 says the expression 2 to the 6th, and you have to circle or underline or type is equal to 2 times 6 or is not equal to 2 times 6. So figure it out both ways and see if they're equal or not. All right, for number 7 and 8, you do not have to actually write this, find the value of this. You're just going to write it in expanded form. So we have the base of 8, and the power of 5, the exponent of 5, tells us that we need to repeatedly multiply this number 8, the base, 5 times. So for the multiplication sign, you can use parentheses. Do I have 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you can use when you're typing, you can use that star key, that asterisk. Don't use an X though, because then it looks like a variable. Or you can use a dot. Here's some examples where we are to evaluate each expression. So be really careful because both of these have a negative in them. In A, there's parentheses around the -6. So the base is -6. That's the factor that we will use 3 times. So we'll take -6 times -6 times -6. And our answer then is -216. And you can do that part on a calculator if you want. -6 times -6 would be +36. And 36 times -6 is -216. Now in B, that negative out front, that is not part of the base. 10 is the base. So we need to take 10 times 10, and then whatever that is, we'll have a negative answer. So the answer is -100. Here's an example with a fraction. The way that we evaluate powers if we have a fraction is we use the numerator to the second power and the denominator to the second power. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 9 times 9 is 81, so we'd have 4 over 81. Here's some examples from your worksheet. In number 8 and 9, you have to pick which one would have this value. Is 2 to the 5th equal to 10, or is 2 times 5? And then for number 9, is 1 to the 3rd equal to 1, or is 1 times 3? So you pick the right one and put it in there. All right, so in numbers 10 through 16, let's look at a couple of these. 1 to the 5th. The answer is not 5. This means 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, because this is the base, and it is repeatedly multiplied 5 times. Well, 1 times itself, however many times, is just 1. Let's look at number 12. The base is -2. We need to repeatedly multiply -2 until we have 5 of these -2's written out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can just start multiplying and see what you get for an answer. In number 14, we have 1/4 squared, which means 1/4 times 1/4. And then you just multiply the 1 times 1, and you multiply the 4 times 4, and you leave your answer like that. 0 to any power is 0. It doesn't matter how many zeros you have, because 0 times any number is 0. In these examples, they tell you what to do for the base. They want you to have a base of 8. So we're going to go ahead and write that, and then I'm just going to put a box. And that has to equal 64. We're trying to figure out what is the exponent, so that when you take 8 to that exponent, you'll get 64. So let's just do some off to the side. Well, 8 to the first power is 8. 8 to the second power, that means 8 times 8, that's 64. So I know that 2 is what goes in here. So the answer is not 2, the answer is 8 squared, or 8 to the second power. Okay, B is a little bit trickier. The base is -3. I'm putting it in parentheses because the base is a negative number. It needs to be in parentheses. And I have to figure out what exponent to use so that I get an answer of 81. Well, let's try some. If we had -3 to the 1, that would be -3. If I had -3 to the second power, -3 times -3 would be a +9. That's not the answer. -3 to the third, that would be -3 times -3 times -3. That would be a -27. So that's not the answer. If I do -3 to the fourth, I would have -3 times -3 times -3 times -3. -3 times -3 is 9. -3 times -3 is 9. 9 times 9 equals 81. So the answer for this one, I need to put a 4 in here. So the answer that you would type in would be -3 in parentheses to the 4th power. They're going to put their answers on top of mine, but they got the same thing. Here's just some more examples with that. How would you write these? So pause the video and try these and then see if you get the right answer. So for A, you should have got 8 squared. 8 to the second power, because that is equal to 64. For B, hopefully you didn't put the base in, in parentheses like we did with our last one, because the whole base is -3. And the way to get -27 would be to the third power. This has a mistake. It should be parentheses -3 to the third. Okay, on your worksheet, you're going to do some of these same problems. So remember that this is the number, and you just have to figure out what the exponent is that would equal 16. So that one's pretty easy. Let's look at number 18. The base is -5. Put it in parentheses. We have to figure out what exponent to use so that we would get -125 when we evaluated it. So if you did -5 squared, that would be 25. That's too small. So try -5 to the third power, and if that doesn't work, keep going. These will all be whole number exponents. You're not going to get any fractions or anything. This means 10 to the what power equals 10,000. So try 10 squared, try 10 cubed, try 10 to the fourth, and so on. So that's all you do with each of these. This is the base, and then you have to figure out what would the exponent be so that you would get these numbers as the answer if you evaluated them. 23 is on the worksheet as well. This says, Jan wants to predict the number of hits she will get on her web page. Her web page received 3 hits during the first week it was posted. Okay. If the number of hits triples every week, how many hits will the web page receive during the 5th week? So it triples. So let's look at this. If in the first week, let's just write out a little table. This is the first week. Now it triples. That means it's times 3. So for the second week, it would be 3 times 3, or you could write that as 3 squared. In the third week, that's going to triple. So we take 3 times 3, we need another 3, or that's the same as 3 cubed. So in the 4th week and the 5th week, you can follow the pattern, and then you don't have to even evaluate it. You could just write this as 3 to the some power. Figure out what the exponent would be. All right, so hopefully you don't have too much trouble with this assignment. If you do, please send me an email or go to the ASC room anytime it's open, or come to my office hours. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.